Do you ever have doubts when working with a client? Do you wonder if you're not good enough? What happens when you allow yourself to move out of doubt and instead get curious in your client sessions? In today's podcast, I speak with occupational therapist Landy Peek about her experience supporting students from the Birth Healing Intensive program and the overlying themes she finds in working with practitioners and clients.
Hello, friends. This is Lynn Schulte, and you are listening to the Birth Healing Summit podcast. We are here for meaningful conversations that will transform the way you work with pregnant and postpartum clients. Whether it is a new perspective, tool, or technique, you'll be able to implement it into your practice today. I invite you to sit back, listen with an open mind, and grab the golden nugget today's guest has to offer. Now let's get started.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode. Today, I have with us Landy Peek. Landy is a occupational pelvic health therapist. She has also got training in somato-emotional release.
Somatic experiencing.
I knew it
Yep.
was other E.
Yes.
And Landy is also a certified birth healing specialist, trained through all my courses. And Landy has been a huge part in doing private one-on-one sessions with the group of students who just completed or is about to complete the Birth Healing Intensive this year. And so I thought it would be fun for Landy and I to kind of get together and discuss some of the themes that we saw coming up in our student sessions to help you all become aware of how your life, your beliefs, and might be impacting your work. So welcome to the podcast, Landy. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's so fun. I love talking with you.
Same.
So, Landy, how was your experience working with, we had 12 practitioners going through this year's Birth Healing Intensive, and you did a couple of sessions and I did a couple of sessions with these students. And
Yeah.
how was that for you? What was your thoughts on that?
It was really fun. I've taught the intensive or advanced is what it used to be
Yes.
with you in that weekend.
That's
And this was a really neat experience that you drew it out versus cramming everything in and adding in the one-on-one sessions. And so having experienced it, having taught it, and now being able to work one-on-one, it is such a neat turning point to see how people are processing the information and being able to embody it because we're doing their own one-on-one sessions. And so things that come up in the coursework, we get to work on. And so you're not just left hanging going, oh my gosh, this is so much. It's like, ooh, this feels big. Let's talk about it. Let's work through it. Let's process it. And I think that was such a neat addition. And it is so fabulous working with practitioners, and they're so excited about the work and how it's landing with them as they work through it, both personally and professionally, because we got to talk about both in the session.
Yes. Yes.
How do we implement this into my existing practice, as well as, oh my gosh, this is bringing up stuff for me personally. How do I process this? And so we can move past that because you can only take your clients as far as you have gone yourself. And so if you have worked through whatever's coming up for you, you're able to take your clients past that too. And I think that is so powerful.
Absolutely. And you are a big part of the expansion of this program, Landy, because I went back and researched those that have taken the weekend course.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, so how well were you able to implement what you learned in that weekend course? And I would say the majority of people's like, I needed more support. I actually had to do more sessions with Landy in order to be able to do the work and put it into the world in my clinical practice. And I was like, okay. So, and yeah, number one, it was like drinking from a fire hose. I kept hearing too.
Yes.
So it was way too much. And that's what helped me to change the program to be this longer 9-month process and giving people time and space to really sit with the material, work with it themselves, practice it with clients in the clinic or not, and then come to these one-on-one sessions. I think that was one of my biggest surprises about the one-on-one sessions is how many questions people brought about the work to our sessions, like, and
Yeah.
like, how do I implement? How do I do this? And I wasn't expecting that. I don't know about you. I was expecting, like, let's just do all the healing work.
Yes.
Some people just use the sessions to ask questions about implementation of the material that they were learning. So that was kind of a eye opener for me, which is great. I don't mind, I love that. And they have that opportunity too to be able to do
Yes, on
that.
that one-on-one, and I think that's important to have that one-on-one time to really clarify the information. Because I had the same thing. I thought, oh, we're going to go deep diving into a bunch of healing.
Yes.
And there was some, but
Yes.
there was a lot of those questions in, I tried this and it landed flat. It didn't quite go as I thought it would go.
Yeah.
How do I do this? How do I bring it in with a client? And we could talk about specific clients without any information. We're
Right.
using HIPAA.
Right.
But
Yes.
in the general scenario of, I have a client, I had, this presented in those case studies, this presented, but it didn't go as I planned. Now what? And
Yes.
so we could go back and look one-on-one and see kind of where was the gap? Where was that missing link? Because usually it was, I got all this information and I kind of missed a little bit of it that really helped me process.
Well, did you find in your sessions that really the missing piece or link was actually from within them,
Oh, absolutely.
right? Like a limiting belief or a hurt or an activation or something that they had within them that was really preventing them from being able to fully implement the material. And
Yeah. Yes, we all bring, and I always call them filters. We all have, based on our personal experiences, our beliefs, the way we were raised, right? We all have filters that we see, and that's how we look at the world. And so, as long as we have these filters and we're unaware of them, then we try to do things and we can't. It's those blind spots that come in.
yeah,
And that's where it's coming in. It's we have a filter over something's not okay to do. It's not okay to feel big emotions like anger.
yeah,
It's not okay to feel sadness. I have to feel happy all of the time. And if
right,
you have this filter and you're trying to work with the work and tap into deeper, bigger emotions, but it's not okay for you to tap into deeper, bigger emotions, you're not going to go there with a client.
right.
And
Or
that's,
yeah, the client's not going to be able to go there because they sense that in you, right?
yes,
I,
right?
yes, I had
Mm-hmm.
one of the students was really struggling and feeling a release
Uh-huh.
and
Yes.
issues. And so we're like, okay, let's explore that. And really what it came down to was that she had a big, big block on feeling any emotion.
Hmm.
And so we had to work on helping her to be okay with her own emotion. And to me, if you can't feel anything, then that's translating into your hands as well.
Hmm.
And so the homework was to allow her to be in her emotion, to process, to feel the emotion coming up in her. And then, we'll see. We're gathering in the live for the live retreat at the end of this in a couple of weeks, and we'll see if it's able to shift what she's able to sense and feel in her hand. But to me, it makes perfect sense that if you're not able to feel your emotions, you shut
Hmm.
that feeling part of you down.
Right. Yeah.
That includes what you're able to feel in your hands.
Uh-huh. I
So
can see that. Yeah.
what I love about this work is that it all makes sense
Hmm.
when you really get to the root cause of what it is that is either blocking you or stopping you or limiting you from being able to either show up fully for your sessions or to be able to go where your clients need to go for them to heal, because you've got to be able to do that first.
Yes, you have to do your own work first to be able to do the work with the clients. And
Yeah.
it's just that awareness of what are your thought processes? How are you seeing the world? What are those? I love the term blind spot versus block, because block is something in front of you that you cannot get through, right? You have to go over it, around it. but you can't go through it. Blind spot, it's like, oh, if I have some mirrors, like if you're driving in the car and you have your side mirrors, if I
Yeah.
have those mirrors, I can see what's there.
Mm,
And now that I see what's there, I can choose what to do with it. Because I don't think we have to go deep diving into all of our past traumas.
yeah.
That's not the purpose. It's to see, okay, I want to take this next step forward. I want to do the deeper emotional work with my clients because I see that there is a link between them not meeting their goals and something bigger going on emotionally.
Yeah.
And so to take my clients there, because I see it's a problem, I have to see what's in my own blind spots, what I need to face first, and I need to work through first so that I can take them there. It's like being a guide up the mountain.
Right. You got
You
to know all the different paths to get there.
exactly. If somebody's like, I want an incredible waterfall view, you have to know how to get them to a waterfall.
Yeah.
And I shared the example with several of the students in the course that we can, a lot of times, blending this work with traditional therapy. Traditional therapy is more like we are the guide of we're going to start at 8. We're going to have a lunch at noon at this exact spot. And then we're going to be at the top at 5. And you're taking your client, and yes, they get to the top, but you're not taking in their experiences. You're not taking in their wants, and you're not available to take little side roads. And so with your work, it's really taking them up the mountain, but sitting there at the beginning saying, okay, let me get some information. What kind of things do you really want to see? What kind of things have you experienced before? Are you a fast hiker? Do you need to take snack breaks? And incorporating the emotional work that comes in is having that full experience where they're part of that guidance. You're still getting them there, but they get to stop along the way and say, oh, I really love birding. So I'm going to look at birding. But it's saying, I really am struggling with this. I've had these past experiences. So we're going to incorporate that into the work. And I find when we're working with the body and the mind and the emotions, things start unlocking and it just becomes so much easier.
Oh, that's the biggest piece. And some of the things that I've been hearing from the students is that they're just showing up so differently without effort.
Yes,
Right.
exactly.
Like that's my whole when I before I started this work, Landy, I did this coloring with crayons and a piece of paper. And I'm like, it was kind of this eruption of all this, it was the color of the chakras coming up and like the base being us
Hmm.
and coming up and it was like women living in ease and grace. Like
Love it.
that was the vision that I'm holding as I we put this work out into the world
Right.
and that's what I love so much about this work is that number one, you don't have to dive into the muck and relive every nitty-gritty piece and thing that you experienced. I love that.
Right.
And shifts can happen, big shifts can
Hmm.
happen relatively easefully and gracefully that create these shifts in you and how you're just showing up in the world without you having to think about it, effort, or do anything. You just show up differently
Yes.
world. And it's just it's mind-blowing. So I just absolutely love this work. What do you feel is some of the bigger themes that have come up in the sessions? Like maybe so let's talk limiting beliefs. Do you remember
Okay.
any of the bigger theme limiting beliefs that you worked with these students?
Yes. I mean, I think one of the overarching human limiting beliefs that I definitely come in all of the sessions were that I'm not good enough.
Yes.
And it comes in so many different ways.
Right?
I'm not good enough in private life, not just our professional life, but it comes up in our sessions around that. In professional, I'm not good enough at this work. And so just struggling with bringing it in raised a lot of that I'm not good enough feelings.
Yeah.
And it's like when you're bringing in this work, it is different than a typical like therapy class that you're taking, where it's hands-on. But we go through the same processes, except for we've already accepted when we go and we learn a hands-on technique and we bring it back to the your clinic, wherever you're working, you're going to be a little clunky when you first start.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And we've done that for years, so we accept that. But when we're starting to work with the emotions, and we're a little clunky when we first start, I saw so many people like immediately start to shut down of like, oh my gosh, not good at, I can't do this.
Yeah.
Like,
Another key one is I'm not enough.
yes, that is a big one
Same,
that
same
ties in.
thing,
Yes.
right? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that one's deeper. And we have, I'm not good enough at something. And then we have, I'm not enough. And I didn't see that one in everyone's sessions. It's definitely a theme.
Right.
But that comes in that deeper, I'm not enough as a human. And
Right.
that one's really deep.
Yeah.
And so as that surfaces, it looks at when you have the I'm not enough, how you're putting yourself out in the world, how
Mm.
you're expecting when you put yourself that reception.
Yeah.
And it overlays what you're willing to do in your practice, in your life, in your sessions, because you have that constant current of, ooh, but I'm not enough. I'm not enough. And so that constant current limits what you can do. And once you can shift that, then it's like, ooh, doors open.
Absolutely.
Let's do this.
Yeah. Expansion. Yay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those for people who aren't aware, the limiting beliefs truly are the hard drive of how you're showing up in the world. It is the programming that your computer is running that you literally, and it's unconscious, it is subconscious, these limiting beliefs. But yet they are your reality.
Yes.
And and so if you want to know what your limiting beliefs are, you just got to look at what is your life like? What is showing up in your life? What are the issues that you keep encountering
Mm-hmm.
on a daily basis? Because it keeps presenting itself to you because that's your belief. It's the filter that you're seeing the world through. It
Mm-hmm.
keeps attracting you. I like the radio frequency idea that
Uh-huh.
if you have that I'm not good enough,
Mm-hmm.
if you've got your frequency turned to that radio station, you are broadcasting that to the world, and everything that happens to you is reflecting that belief to you.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I love working with the limiting beliefs with people because a lot of times they say the limiting belief themselves. Like
Uh-huh.
we don't always have to go digging for these limiting beliefs, because as your clients are talking, you'll hear those limiting beliefs being spoken, and it's really us tapping into recognizing that, oh, that's a limiting belief,
Mm-hmm.
and some of that comes from our intuition.
Uh-huh.
I know you and I both had our students in this program had a big problem, some of them, not all, but
Mm-hmm.
some of them had big issues with being able to access their intuition.
Yeah.
And
Struggling to tap into it and trust it. Because
yeah,
I think more people actually tapped into it than they gave themselves credit for. They just didn't recognize it and trust it.
that's
And that is such a big thing.
right, because the intuition is coming, but we doubt it.
Yes,
You know, that
because we've been taught to doubt it. We've
exactly.
been told so many times to turn down that dial that,
Yeah,
oh, ignore those thoughts, ignore those feelings, ignore those sensations. That's kind of how we run through society.
yeah,
Don't, be out there and big and different. And so we're so used to that when these little hits come up, we're
yeah,
like, oh, nope, nope, don't go there. And
yeah.
can I really trust that? Am I just making this up? So that bringing that in and saying, no, you can trust those thoughts. You can trust those feeling sensations that are coming up. Those are big. Those are cues and clues that you can use in your session to help your clients.
Absolutely. And, in PT and OT school,
Mm-hmm.
massage therapy school, whatever
Yeah.
school, the medical profession, I would have to say that the older, more mature professionals
Mm-hmm.
are probably accessing and using their intuition way more than they're talking about it,
Yes.
right? And so these younger professionals are
Mm-hmm.
out in the world and they're trying to be all in their head and they're, trying to access the knowledge
Mm-hmm.
based on what's showing up in front of them and trying to figure it all out.
Yes.
And when we can allow our brains to kind of settle down and take a back seat a little bit
Hmm.
and allow that intuition to come forward, it's what most people are doing and using that have been in the work for eons.
Yes.
They just don't talk about it, and I think is a disservice. I think that as a profession, as a medical system, we need to honor that intuition, although intuition isn't scientifically researched, nor can it be evidenced and validated.
Hmm.
And so I think that's why a lot of people shy away from talking about it. But you and I are just here to say that intuition is a massively strong, um, uh, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a tool
Yeah,
that that we should be accessing more in our sessions. And it's to me, it's just a different form of knowledge coming through.
absolutely. And you're right. So many therapists are using it. It's when in a session you know, and you don't have to think about it, you know. It's those sessions where you're in flow and you're so in the session that you're not second guessing yourself, the whole time. You're not thinking about what should I do next? What should I do next? Oh, I've got to do this. I've got to do. You're just in that session of flow. And I think most therapists have felt that where you are so connected with the client and you are just flowing with the client and you're not second guessing yourself at all. That's where that's coming in, where you know what's coming next, you know what to do. And so, yes, I think more therapists have experienced that, but they haven't labeled it as intuition. And so we
Right.
know it, we feel it. And then all of a sudden, you're taking them into this different realm where we're labeling it as intuition. And you're saying, let's really tune into it and pay attention. And it freaks them out.
Right.
When in our sessions, when I was working with clients, I would go back to, okay, so when have you sensed that where you just know what to do with a client, where things are coming up to you and it's just like, oh yeah, I've got to follow this train of thought. But you've thought about as a train of thought and not as intuition. When have you just known where to put your hands on the body
Yeah.
and you know what comes next? Because they have felt that. And most of the clients that I worked with the students, they have felt that. They could describe it. They just didn't label it. And then all of a sudden we put a label on it and we freak out. And that's part of learning as we do over analyze that new information because we're trying to bring it in cognitively.
Well, and I think our training tells us to deny it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The medical system is like, oh, we shouldn't be using our intuition. I know that's the biggest pull that most students have is, well, as I'm a PT, I shouldn't be using my intuition. Or, that we all have limiting beliefs around our intuition. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's what's at play here. And I would have to say in the sessions that I did with students who were struggling with their intuition, to me, there was a disconnect in their body from their head to the rest of their body. Like people who are just walking heads,
Mm-hmm.
they're all up in their head and they've got, they really have to figure it out. They're disconnected from their what their heart is telling us, what their belly's telling us, what their womb is telling us, what their bones are telling us.
Mm-hmm.
I love Suzanne Skerlack says, first hit, go with first hit.
Yes. Same when you're doing tests on questions. That first answer that comes up is the one you're supposed to go to. Yes, we've been trained to do that too. I mean, we've been taught that in school as well. Go with that first question. That's your intuition.
Yeah.
Um, but yes, there's so many people that are just so head spaced. We're overthinking things, we're overanalyzing things, and we don't tap into the rest of us
Mhm.
because I think some people have been taught not to because it's not okay
Absolutely.
to go into those sensations. It's
Right.
you survived by being in your head. And now we're flipping the script and saying, okay, we want you to feel everything. And that can be overwhelming. And
Yeah.
we want you to tap into what is that gut sensation? What's going on in your body? Can we trust these sensations?
Yeah.
And in those sessions, it came to where we can play with that. We can play with, ooh, what is that? Let's go into that. Can we like just shine a light on it and just be
Yeah.
aware of what's coming up? And it's not going in big and deep. I mean, that's what the lovely part about the work is you don't have to go deep into trauma. You don't have to go deep into your history. It just starts to become aware and saying, what is that thing that's just there that I just kind of need to be more aware of and start shifting into, oh, okay, if I lean into that little bit more, that wasn't scary. That was okay.
Yeah.
Let's lean in a little bit more. And I think that really beautiful thing about having those sessions is we could lean into that one-on-one and
Yeah.
play with it and then take it back to the group. And it's not as scary when you're playing with it one-on-one, when it's just like, let's get curious about this.
Yeah.
And it opened more doors as I watched people over the 9 months, how they were first interacting with their clients to, oh my gosh, I was able to take my client to this place. I was able to open the doors. I feel different. I've now stepped into new things in my own life. And there was those shifts, but it wasn't like fire hose. It was subtle things that happened, and those shifts were big.
Yeah, they were. It's been really fun to watch and see the progression and the confidence as
Yes.
people started using this work more, trusting themselves more. And
Mm-hmm.
really, it's about embodiment, right?
Mm-hmm.
About being fully, fully embodied. And what I love about the work is how the either the disconnects or the trauma shows up in our body as images, you know,
Mm-hmm.
of someone I was working with had a trapped door that the trap door was really heavy and stuck to open up, and it was really dark, and this trap door was right above their pelvic space.
Mm-hmm.
So what I appreciate is that there's a lot of us that feel we're connected to our body when we're not
Mm-hmm.
really connected to all of our body. And
Mm-hmm.
we have cordoned off areas in our body, or we're not able to go there as freely.
Right.
But in just working with whatever visualization comes up for the client, what you talked about this earlier, it's not us dragging them up the hill. It's
Mm-hmm.
us guiding them and their sensations and what's coming up for them. Like
Yes.
the client guides the session. It's
Mm-hmm.
client led. And that's what gets them up the mountain, not us telling them what to do.
Yes. And as a therapist, it is so much easier to do therapy sessions when it is client led. They get to where they want to go and they feel that progress and they know and they have those connections. And we don't have to prep ahead of time where you don't have to go, I'm going to do all of this stuff and think ahead. And then the client comes in and you thought you're going to work on this. And all of a sudden, you're working on, say, P leaks. And all of a sudden, pelvic, like pain with sex comes up. And you're like, oh, do we pivot to pain with sex or do we continue on my plan to P leaks? And if you're client guided, then you're just like, oh, this is what the body is presenting. This is what the
Yes.
client's presenting. These are what the stories that are coming up. So it's like, here's the breadcrumb trail that
Yeah.
is taking me there. And when I started using your work, that was like a huge shift of, oh my gosh, I have more time in my day, in my life, because I'm not overthinking the sessions. I know what to do. I show up and I can follow what's going on with that client really easily. So my life got easier
Well,
using this client-led approach.
yeah, and it takes the pressure off too.
It does. Yes,
Because
absolutely.
I mean, you don't have to figure it out. Really, the biggest piece to this work is the dialoguing and asking the questions.
Hmm.
And there is a what's the right word? I don't want to say a protocol, but there's some not rules or
It's a guidebook.
a guidebook. Thank you. There's a
Yeah.
guidebook to the way that we ask those questions.
Hmm.
So they're non-leading, they're non-judgmental, they're
Hmm.
open-ended so that our
Yes.
clients can go where they need to go. And the other piece that I love about this work is that because it is body-centered,
Hmm.
the body can't lie.
Yes.
And so you can tell whether it's a yes or a no in the body,
Hmm.
or
Yes.
whether what they just said resonates with someone or it doesn't.
Hmm.
And so when their mind, because when we're up in our mind and we're trying to figure everything up in just our mind, we're missing the majority of the signals that
Yes.
guide us
Hmm.
and tell us our yeses and our nos. And that's why our mind is going to question everything because it doesn't know if it's a yes or a no. And so we get that intuitive hit and we're like, oh, I don't know. Should I answer this? Should I ask that? Or should I not ask that? Like, what do I do? But if when you're connected into your body, you're embodied and you sense that, like, oh, okay, that's my signal that yes, this is important. Uh,
Hmm.
and like your body guides you into what to say, and their body guides you into what's their truth or what's just a path that's going to lead you maybe not to the point that you want to get to. And it may eventually, just a little bit more indirectly. And
Right.
yeah, so
Yeah.
that dialoguing is a huge piece. And I know that did come up in several of my sessions of
Hmm.
not being able to know what to say.
Yes.
And I would have to say the majority of it is it because they were just up in their head.
Hmm.
They didn't have their heart or their belly or their womb space connected to the mind. They're all meant to
Hmm.
work together, everybody. We're not meant to be walking heads. We're not meant to be walking hearts either.
Right.
You know,
Yes.
we really want the whole system working together. And
Hmm.
I think that was one of the biggest pieces, themes, I would say, in the sessions that we had.
Hmm. Yeah. Because go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Our brains talk us in and out of, things. If you look at like that motivation of like just going for a run, like runner going for a run in the winter is a big struggle for me, especially go in the morning. And it's like, I don't want to go because it's cold and it's dark.
And
Go
all
ahead.
that happens when you're laying in bed too, right?
But it's looking at how much your brain goes back and forth, where you are talking yourself into it and out of it, and into it and out of it. And
Yeah,
that's why we really can't trust that dialogue that's going on internally in our heads, because we can talk ourselves into and out of different situations.
yeah,
And then we throw in all of the what ifs and shoulds, and we just muddle the scene so much. And when we start stepping back and really looking at that whole picture, then we don't just have that in and out, up and down. What are we going to do?
yeah,
We have all of the senses that are coming in and saying, okay, this is where it's leading me. This is what I should do. This is how I step into it. And as we trust our own senses, then we can follow the guidance of the client. And it's, because they're going to talk themselves in and out of different stories. And so we can go, oh, wait, but this is what's going on in your body. And do you sense this? And do you know this? And really feel this?
right.
And those guidance, that piece of those little breadcrumbs of information,
Yeah,
they're the things that like connect the dots. And as long as we're in our heads, we miss the breadcrumb trail that's leading you right to where you need to go. And so you stay in your head and you worry about what you're going to do, and you worry about what you're going to say next to the client, and you worry if you should do this exercise or that exercise.
yeah,
And you've missed that connection with your client. You've missed that deeper level of really connecting as humans, but
right,
also connecting into this breadcrumb trail that's telling you this is exactly what I need. And
right.
then it does, it takes the pressure off, it makes it easy. But,
Yeah,
you can't trust all of that in and out talk.
right. And it makes it way more fun
It
too.
does. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And there's less burnout and you just feel energized at the end of the day versus depleted. And yeah, there's
And
so much benefit to one, doing your own work,
yes.
and two, being able to show up in a way for your clients that one takes the pressure off of you, and two, helps you to tune into what the client's body really needs because the clients are in their head too. The same thing that is happening
Yes.
for us is happening for our clients. And if you're in your head, you're probably seeing a lot of clients that are in their head too.
Uh-huh. Yes.
Because our clients tend to mirror what's going on for us in
Isn't
our,
that interesting?
it so is. It's
It's
so,
so funny when
yeah.
you start having the same situation come up, and I'm like, okay, I've got to start like looking at my own life and
Yes,
where is this
right?
coming up in my life? Because we do have those mirrors that come in.
Absolutely. Our kids are our mirrors, our
Oh,
clients are our
yes.
mirrors, like
Mhm.
and just really looking at when do we get activated? When do we get triggered? Because the trigger to me is just a point or there's something inside of us that wants more healing. It wants more
Yes.
attention, right? Like
Hmm.
it's a um lighthouse. Like, hello,
Yes.
hey, I'm coming up to show you that there's something here that you might want to look at.
Hmm.
So, yeah, and all that. I mean, we're not meant to be perfect. We're
We're
not,
not.
no. And so we need to understand that we all have stuff to work on. Our
Hmm.
parents were not meant to be perfect. We're not meant to be perfect parents because then our kids would have nothing to stretch them to grow more and to
Hmm.
work against or to work through. And so that's this imperfect world that we live in is all meant to help us to grow.
Right.
And
Yeah, we're on a journey. And
journey.
yeah, that's a huge, I think when we step back and we can look at, we're all on a journey. We're all going to make mistakes, and
Yeah,
it's okay to make mistakes, and you learn from those mistakes. But when you can step back and see that really non-judgmentally, that it's like, okay, I'm struggling, you're struggling. And I think that is such a huge thing with our clients. And I know as a new therapist, I was like, I've got to be perfect and I've got to look super professional and I can't let them know that I'm struggling at all. But I found when I made a mistake and I laughed at it, as in like, whoops, okay. So, as you're even working with your work in the body, there are times that you push it a little too hard or a little too big, a little too much. And we're learning their nervous system and we're learning what's going on with them. When they came back and said, oh my gosh, I was really flared up for that, then instead of going, ooh, that can't happen again, say, well, I think I pushed you a little bit too much. And in that pushing, I learned something about you. But when I was able to own those mistakes and laugh about things that are happening in my life that, are mess ups or mistakes or struggles, clients saw me as more human. And
yeah,
that when we're more human, we're more relatable. And it's easier, at least it is for me, to share something with someone that's deep, that's personal, when I know that there's not that judgment, when I know that there's that openness of like, oh, well, they get it because they're struggling too.
absolutely. And it's all about that connection,
It is.
connecting to our clients and helping them to be able to relate to us so that they
Mhm.
feel safe and trust it and they trust in us to be able to go where they need to go to heal. And
Absolutely.
and what therapists, what we all need to realize is that a lot of this happens on that unconscious, subconscious level
Yes.
that your clients coming in their subconscious, unconscious can feel what it feels safe to go
Mhm.
with you and what doesn't feel safe to
Yes.
go with you. And
Hmm.
so that, if you're only able to get your clients so far and you're maybe not getting that full complete healing, there may be that block within you or that blind spot. I like that
Hmm.
blind spot within you that is not allowing that person to feel safe for them to be able to go where they need to go.
Hmm.
So, like the example is the emotions. If you don't feel comfortable and 100% comfortable letting someone cry or letting them have their emotion fully, your clients are going to sense that at some level and they're not going to be able to go there fully.
Right. And it's why when we've worked with a client and we've gotten them to a certain point and then they go see someone else and they make this big breakthrough, it's not that they did a big breakthrough, it's that other practitioner was available and their subconscious could sense it to go there where you weren't. And that's okay. We're not meant to go everywhere with everyone. That would be exhausting.
That's important.
It is
Or-
because I know, like, I am one that if I'm getting nowhere with a client, I am the first to refer because
Yeah,
I don't need to like push myself to be open to go wherever they need to go. I know where I can't go. I know where I'm not comfortable going. That's not healthy for me to go. And so I'm going to refer to someone else that I know can take them there. And that's okay because I got them to a certain spot. And then we pass the baton And they
Yeah.
get to go to someone different. And it doesn't have to be a judgment on ourselves. It
Right.
doesn't have to be a judgment on them. It just means that we're meant to take certain clients certain places, and other clients, we're going to pass the baton to somebody else.
Right.
And when we're open to that and really owning what we're good at and what we can step into and what we're available for, that's when we really shine. And I love how in this intensive, we got that one-on-one work so that they could really step into, this is what I'm good at, this is what I'm available, and really be able to shine and not have to have that, I have to do everything for everyone.
Right. And that is so beautifully said, Landy. Thank you so much. Because, those of you listening into this, and some of you are going, oh my God, that sounds so cool. I would love to be able to go there with my clients and be able to do all this deep healing work. And you're excited. And
Mhm.
that's awesome. Yay. Please think about joining the intensive. And then there's other of yous going, nope, no, thank you. Don't ever want to go there. And that's okay.
Yes, it
That's
is. It's
okay.
absolutely okay. Because we have to know kind of where
Yes.
we're available to go. I personally know I don't do well with child sexual abuse. Like, that's not something that I tolerate well in my own body, because I have my own little kids. And so I feel that trigger when it's like, ooh, okay, if I go a lot of that, if my whole week was filled with that, then
Yeah.
I start getting a little bit hyper intense with my kids, going like, oh my gosh, no, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't, because I'm thinking of all the bad things that could happen. That's not healthy for me. And
That's
so if I can
interesting.
shift
Yeah.
and be able to say, okay, that's, I can do one every once in a while or once a week.
Yeah.
But if my whole week is filled like that, it starts messing with me and I don't feel as good and I'm not as good a practitioner. I need someone that can go there with those clients. They need someone that can go there with those clients, that can go there comfortably and safely for both people. And I know that's not me.
Right.
Birth trauma, I can talk about all day long.
And
It
someone who's
does not
had,
care.
right.
Yes.
And someone who's had a horrific birth and has a lot of trauma around birth, you're not going to be able to go there
No.
unless you do the healing work and are able to feel, resolved or
Hmm.
triggered thinking about your birth. So just recognize where you can go and where you don't want to go.
Yes. And
You, I,
honor that.
and honor it. Yes.
And that's a really big thing, is being able to say, nope, that's not for me. This is. And I
Yeah.
really am passionate about this. And we find those things that we're passionate and we're in that flow state with our clients and we love it.
Yeah.
That's where you're going to shine. That's where you need to step into.
Absolutely. Go where your gifts are, everybody. Go
Exactly.
are. Absolutely. Yeah. Now I'm realizing why I had boys, Landy. I really wanted girls, but I think if I had girls, I wouldn't be able to do the trauma, the sex abuse stuff that I've been able to handle. So,
Yes, it's been interesting. I've got one of both, one girl and one
oh,
boy,
yeah.
and
But
it is interesting as I parent a girl versus parent a boy,
yeah.
the difference and the different triggers that come in. That the lovely thing about this work is then you're aware of them. So
Yeah.
you don't get derailed. Now, if I have a trigger come up, it's not that I'm derailed. It's like, oh, okay, there's something there.
Yes.
And then I get to say, do I want to get curious and go into that, or do I just want to be aware that it's there? Because we don't always have to dive in deep. So then I get to say, oh, well, this is something I probably should work through because it is now a repetitive thing that is impacting how I parent. And there are things that do come up. And so it is interesting. And then parenting a boy, those same triggers aren't coming up.
Right.
It's
Right.
just that kind of parallel, life experiences
Yeah.
that, come in.
Interesting. Aha learning moment for Lynn here.
Right.
Thank you. I appreciate that perspective, and it makes me realize, I'm not sure I feel like I'm able to go anywhere anybody wants to go and
Hmm.
able to hold that. So I don't limit myself in where I need to go.
Right.
And I also, my history, I don't have a lot of that darker history in my experiences. And I
Yes.
think that's another theme that both saw in
Hmm.
our sessions with our clients or with our students is that, our experiences of what happened to us in the womb, even going back to that womb imprint. I was kind of shocked when we got to the womb imprint this time around. I
Mhm.
had partnered it with the three energy centers and something, maybe the birth challenge, I don't know, something else. And everyone, they got to womb imprints. There was like, whoa, that was a lot. And so I
Yes.
realized the impact of how powerful. I mean, I knew that. I just didn't know in teaching it that that should be on its own. And
Right.
so anyway, learned and I've shifted things around for the next cohort. Um,
Yes.
but the womb imprints are so intense, so powerful.
Hmm.
In deep healing work. But things that happened to you while you were in the womb, things that happened to you in your childhood, your relationship with your mom and dad, your college, high school experiences, college experiences, like all those pieces of us, because we can have parts of us,
Hmm.
that part that got, hurt as a child because whatever mom or dad did. There's a part of us that, something may have happened in college. There's a part of us, something may have happened when we gave birth. And all those parts can be triggering us or keeping us from really showing up fully in our true authentic self.
Hmm.
And that's what came a lot up in our sessions is those incidences, those working with those parts of us and reintegrating them so that they're not triggered anymore. And
Yes.
as we as we show up in life and in our work. And that's another fun aspect to this program is that it doesn't just change your sessions,
Hmm.
it changes your world. It changes how you show up in the world,
Yes.
and every aspect of your life is impacted.
It is. Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's changing all of those thought processes. And it's not, I always talk about it's not erasing memories, right? So as we're going through the work, it's not like you forget what happened to you, but you deactivate the emotions that are going to it.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I can remember I've experienced trauma in my life. Yes, I can remember the traumatic experience, but I'm no longer activated. I think about it and it's like, oh, yeah, that happens. It's kind of like grocery list. There's nothing really emotionally tying there. And that's where we
Unless you
want to
hate to
kind of
do
set.
it.
Right, exactly. Unless grocery shopping is a hardship for you. For me, writing out a grocery list is not anything that's big. It's something I do as I'm doing other things.
Right.
There's that level of, yes, this happens, but it's no longer, oh my gosh, I feel the physiological response. I'm super stressed about it. I'm perseverating and ruminating on it. I'm thinking about it, right? It's just like, yep, that happens. And that's a really beautiful spot to be in your life. And it allows you to do more. It's like opening up doors because you just can walk past that and be able to just continue on. And that's what these sessions are doing with clients. And your ability to do these with your own clients is to like deactivate those big emotions. And it doesn't have to be a big event to have big emotions.
No.
It can be like something embarrassing that happened in high school, and you're like, oh my gosh, mortification, earth, please swallow me up.
Yeah.
It does, it was a like you said a joke and it landed wrong. That can still have a big emotion to it. So we don't, if you're somebody that is like, I don't want to work with deep trauma, you don't have to work with deep trauma. But we all have those little emotions that come up. We all have those things that it's like, oh, I can't do that. I can't be a public speaker because, oh my gosh, in middle school, somebody snickered as I was, doing public speaking. Those things are still blocking and keeping people from doing the things they want to do. And maybe that they're keeping you from doing the things you want to do. So you can go as deep in this work as you want with clients, and you can stay in just like the day to day, still big struggles for people and make a huge impact in your own life and your client's life. And that I think is important because I have heard just in talking to people about your work, oh my gosh, I don't want to go there. And it's like, well, I totally get you, but you don't have to go there. We can keep it lighter and still be really intuitive and use the incredible techniques and help people change their lives without having to go into something big and deep.
That's what I'm constantly amazed when I hear someone's birth story, the trauma, the trauma, the trauma, the trauma. And, as you hear the story, I know in my head, I'm going, holy cow, how am I supposed to help this person? That's a lot that they
Yes.
went through. And yet, when you just listen to the body guides you and takes you. And sometimes it's just clearing out the energy of that birth. Sometimes it's just replaying it. Like it's amazing how quickly and sometimes simplistically the
Mm-hmm.
healing can happen when there's been so much. And,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I really appreciate about this work is that it doesn't have to, you don't get into the nitty-gritty and have to heal each and every little thing. You just kind of see what shows up in this moment and you
Mm-hmm.
work with that. And, when someone says, "Oh, I don't know if I want to go there," that to me is the mind talking.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, I appreciate that. Can we listen to your body and see where your body wants to go? And can we
Mm-hmm.
just address whatever wants to show up from the body perspective?
Yeah.
And sometimes that calms down that mind of like, ooh, don't make me go there.
Right. Yes.
And with this work, it's just asking, permission if something is showing up and the person doesn't want to go there, get curious around it and then you don't have to. So,
Exactly. We brought that little awareness,
yeah.
and then they get to decide if they want to go into it today, if they want to go into it 3 weeks from now, right?
Right.
I've had clients that like something has come up and it's been 3 years, and they'll circle back around and say, okay, I'm ready to talk about that right now. Let's
Yeah.
go into that right now. And so sometimes it's just planting the seed of like, okay, this is a little blind spot. We just showed it in the mirrors. And then you are like, just, it's there, but we're going to put it away and then we can circle back around. And that's the beauty of that work is that you don't have to take anyone anywhere they don't want to go. It's
Right.
not forceful. It is very gentle and like, let's get curious about it. Let's see what's there. Are you okay if we go there?
Yeah.
And I love that approach that's very gentle and not like, okay, we're just going to like start hitting the hammer on like, you had big time trauma. No, we don't have to do that. We
Right.
can just get curious, okay? And there's a lot of sessions as I use your work. I don't even know the story. I
Exactly.
don't have to know their story, which is
Nope.
nice for me because I don't have to go into their deep trauma.
Right.
I don't have to know the story because the
Nope.
body is telling me exactly what it needs. And so I don't have to go into the verbal replaying, which isn't good for anyone anyway, to go front
No.
to back through a trauma story.
Nope.
We go through a piece, we see what's there, the body leads us, and then it's like dominoes where
Yeah.
you unlock this one little piece and everything else just falls into place. And
Yeah.
so it is a lovely approach in that respect.
Well, and the body knows how to unlock that too.
Yes. Yeah.
So when we follow the body, like if we followed our head, we may do this domino, but that
Mhm.
doesn't unlock everything. But when we
Right.
follow the body knows the exact domino to address to get
Hmm.
that ripple effect.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's a
Hmm.
beautiful analogy. I love that. And so that's why I'm so surprised sometimes with how easy it can be because the
Hmm.
body guides you to that one domino and you just address that one little piece to the puzzle
Yes.
and then everything unfolds. So,
Yes.
yeah, it's so incredibly fun. And so I hope everybody, any last words of wisdom, Landy, anything that you want to share with the audience before we say goodbye?
Yeah, get curious because like even if you don't take this course, get curious about what's coming up for you. Get curious about your own thought processes, what the thoughts are that continually come up. If you're having those like I can't take that next step in life, get curious about like why? What's coming up around that? What am I afraid of? What all of those things are going to help you unlock that next thing.
Yeah.
And if you are feeling like I need more support around this is a great intensive to be able to get that support where you're not fire hosed, which is,
Yeah.
like we've all done those big weekend courses and
Yeah.
they're great. But I love the trickle effect because you're able to take it, use it, take it, use it, take it, use it. And I'm curious to see how much more integration has happened with this cohort versus last cohort in that integration. But get curious and see, like, is this the work that is what you're waiting for? Or, is there something else out there? But
You
I
know,
think for a lot it is.
Yeah, and using that curiosity to see what's showing up in front of you,
Mhm.
because I feel a lot of times sometimes I knew to take a course because I would have two or three clients that would show up and I'd be like, oh, that I need to go learn about that.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
that to me is kind of that guidance of where we're supposed to go on our path, really.
Hmm.
And so if any of you listening in and you're like, I'm not so sure, I'm on the fence about this, then I just invite you to use that curiosity that Landy was talking about there and just see in this next week or so, or in the next month or so, or see what's showing up in your clinic. What's showing up in your sessions? Who's showing up? What are they bringing with them? And what's happening in your sessions? Because that is going to guide you. And that may be the little breadcrumbs
Hmm.
that are guiding you to, yeah, maybe it's a yes then, and if you're the person, you're on the fence and you're not getting any of these more trickier cases, or things are staying pretty easy peasy, then maybe that's your answer there. Okay.
Exactly. Yes.
So I love living in the question of, is
Hmm.
this the right thing for me or not?
Yep.
And then seeing what shows up and seeing how that how spirit kind of guides you is the way I
Right.
do that.
Yep.
That's life, source, God, spirit, universe, whatever you want to call
Hmm.
it, whatever
Exactly.
right for you. But that is, that I truly believe that is our the signals in our life
Hmm.
to be open, and we need to stay curious to the signals that are guiding us to try to um, get us to where we need to go in this life.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Landy, thank you so much. Thank you for who you are, for the work that you're doing in this world, for the support that you've given me to this intensive program and to helping to share this work with the world. I am super, super grateful to you. And I'm so thank you for your time and being
Oh,
here.
thank you for having me. I really appreciate being part of this.
Awesome. You're the best. So thank you everybody for listening in. Hope we gave you some greater insights into looking at yourself and how you're showing up in your sessions, how you're showing up in your life, how to maybe look for your blind spots, look for your triggers, and to see what you want to do with that. You have choice once you become aware of it. So
Exactly.
yeah, start becoming more aware, everybody. All right, thanks everybody for listening in. We will see you all on the next podcast episode. And here is to smoother births, faster recoveries, and greater healing for all. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Today's podcast was brought to you by the Institute for Birth Healing. To discover more, visit instituteforbirthhealing.com. To claim $50 off of any online course, use coupon code PODCAST50 at checkout. Till next time, I'm Lynn Schulte, founder of the Institute for Birth Healing.